Good All right, so I've got all 94 chairs that are available out. So hopefully there's a seat. If so, please take it. And if not, well, enjoy standing. Everybody's seated. There's a couple. There's a couple. There's a few behind here. There's a few behind here. Everybody's sitting. We're starting. There's seats everywhere. All right, we've got a sign-up sheet going around, so please sign that. So my name is Scott Donnell. I'm the president of the College Springs Astronautical Society. This is our August monthly meeting, delayed by 1 week because of last week's solar eclipse. And yeah, there was a solar eclipse. That's what the t-shirt says anyway. And so this meeting, we're going to really skinny down on the business part of it. There's just a couple of essentials. We're going to spend as much time as possible on eclipse photos. We are broadcasting live right now on YouTube. And so members who are not able to attend in person can view right now or later as they desire. So that being said, I just wanted to, we've got a lot of visitors here, so just raise your hand if you are a visitor, first time attending our meeting with College Springs. Wow, quite a few. So, pretty welcome. Frank Goodman, our secretary, has just a half-page form, third-page form he'd like to fill out. Basically, just a kind of welcome, let us know who you are. We have to reach out and contact you to see if you enjoyed our meeting, like to come back, and no obligation, but just our way of kind of extending a welcome to you. I have with me some other officers. So I mentioned Fred Goodman, our secretary. I always mess this up. Tom DeClue, our treasurer. Thank you, Tom. I also have Jim Burnham, our vice president, right here, who's also the guy that really orchestrated the Glendale State Park eclipse trip for us. So. Didn't stay with us. well, outstanding work. You really did a huge success for us. And Doug Cook, where I saw you walking there in the back, member at large. That's our group of officers. So again, all you visitors, thank you and welcome. One of the first things I want to do is tell you that I'll be having Jim Irmer kind of help me out running the meeting because I'm also the webmaster. Collecting, trying to get all your photos posted and keep the YouTube video going. So, and I don't know what I'm doing. So with that, first order of business, this is our next month is our annual business meeting where we conduct the election of officers. Leading up to that, our trustees put out a call for nominations, and so and also kind of the process. So I'd like to turn it over to Matt Russell at this point to talk about officer nominations and elections.
All right, Floyd, come on up to your trustee. Okay, well, we have an election next month that will be held right here during our meeting. And on the forums, I posted some messages regarding the elections. If anybody wanted to nominate any particular member to be an officer. Floyd and I are trustees. We handle the election process. So what I want to do is I want to go over who we have accepted nominations for in the position that they are running for. Right now, I have a member at large, Doug Cook. Doug, are you here? Did you accept the nomination, right? For secretary, Fred. For treasurer, she's not here right now, Jill Furman. Vice president, Jim. And I accepted a nomination for president. So what I would like to do is open the floor if there's any other nominations. And you accept? Accept. Okay. Are there any other nominations? Mike Fraser, do you have any nominations?
It's a good opportunity. If you want to learn more about how the club works and what's involved with all of it, it's a lot of fun to do it. And the board gets together a week before the meeting tonight to discuss what's going to be conducted in the meetings. So you get to know people in the club a lot better, and it's really a lot of fun to be a board member.
Okay, so expect the election next month.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. Let's see, there was Dave Warner, you had an outreach report.
Yes, sir.
Okay, please, your opportunity.
All right. Last night was awesome. We were at Broadmoor, Bruce booked out at 9, and we get $500 from the Broadmoor. It was Alexis Corporation was doing an event. They had us there, and we spent the whole evening almost exclusively looking at Saturn and the moon. We had probably about 400 people. We got $500 for that 4 hours of being out there showing people the moon and Saturn. We looked at a couple of things, globular clusters in Alberio, and it's pretty light polluted and kind of hazy skies last night. But the moon and Saturn were great. We had a lot of people that have rave reviews that pass on, so we'll be doing a lot more than that. I actually have a total of $1,260 for the club to go into our funds from that have been collected from outreach in the last couple of months. So thanks. 10 of those dollars I want to mention actually came from somebody that was at Garden of the Gods. When we did Garden of the Gods here a couple of weeks ago before the solar eclipse, we handed out about 450 pairs of solar glasses. One group was so happy that we were there and they got some solar glasses because they were really hard to find. They gave us $10. So if you're just give this to the club, you know. So we'll take any kind of donations that we can, you know, and it's just great news. We just had a really great time. We're over 6,000 people reached this year, 170 total hours of outreach so far this year. Just been a phenomenal effort among everybody in Colorado Springs Astronomical Society coming out supporting all these events. Brian has a observatory open house coming up on September 5th. So it's October 10th, I'm like, film because I can go change the calendar now. So make sure that people know when that is so that we can support that with outreach. Lots of different other activities going on in September. The one that I do want to mention is real big coming up is Astronomy Day. We haven't really done an Astronomy Day here in the Colorado Springs Astronomical Society for a couple of years. This time we're partnering up with Garden of the Gods Visitor Center. We're going to be out there both from 12 o'clock noon, doing daytime activities, things like meteor crater demonstrations and meteorite exhibits, and some other UV bead bracelet making and other activities, along with some of the activities that the Garden of the Gods is going to bring for news. We're also going to try to get the Meso portable mobile observatory that had gone up to see the solar eclipse. We're going to try to get them to bring out their observatory so people can walk through and see what they do with that observatory there at Garden of the Gods. I need some help. If you all can, if there's anybody that wants to volunteer to help out, whether it's bringing a solar telescope and doing solar observing for that 12 o'clock to 4 o'clock time frame, or bringing the telescope at night and doing the nighttime work, which will be about 6 o'clock to 10 o'clock or so. You can help with either of those activities or doing it, meteor crater demonstration. Like I can show you everything that you need to do. If you need the help with that, if you can help out with one of those things, even just handing out the things I have to give away. I have a whole big box of rubbery paper stuff to give away to people with all those space cards and postcards and bookmarks and all sorts of cool space stuff that we want to show people what astronomy is all about, and we have that opportunity. That's September 30th. That's a Saturday. Try to come out and help us if you can do that. And I think that's about it for outreach. Yes, sir.
I just wanted to say thank you on this group here tonight as a result of your outreach at the fourth time possible events.
Oh, that's
like 5 years today. We hang about the Sentinel also up there. It's really cool.
excellent. Thank you. I appreciate that.
There's two people in the back.
Great, and that's what it's all about. Is bringing it here, and we'll have these, these meetings also are part of our outreach, and that we have these talks that I think will be of interest to everybody as we move forward in the different things. One more thing I want to bring up, because I don't want to forget this, is Pikes Peak Library District. We spent 6 different days going to different Pikes Peak Library District libraries: Cheyenne, Penrose, Rock Rimmon, and 21C. And we went and gave, Bruce and I gave the solar eclipse talks. They were really ecstatically happy with all of the support we got standing remotely at any of those events. And people just had a really fabulous time hearing about this upcoming solar eclipse. Gave them some ideas on how to plan for it, prepare for it, safely observe it during those partial eclipse phases, whether that was here in town or going up into the Havasu Valley. So they actually gave me some little bitty bags for all the people that participated. So if you came out, like Steve came out, Jeff, and of course Bruce, and somebody else, who did I forget? Ralph. And if I forgot anybody else, feel free to come by and take one of these goodie bags. He gave us about 5 of them to give away for the people that helped out. We're going to be doing more of those talks in the library. Introduce people to astronomy and then bring them out to star parties, do things like that. So we're really excited about what we have moving forward after the snows all go away. So that's pretty much what I have for outreach right now. Thank you, Dave. I have one thing. I forgot to bring this too. We got a coin from Florence on Fossil Beds a couple of times ago, and I forgot to bring it out just so everybody knows. But they coined us. If you're familiar in the military, you might know what coining is. That's a kind of a certificate of recognition in the government. We got a coin for our over 100 hours of volunteer work going to Florida on Fossil Beds, bringing our telescopes up there, supporting their talks, and showing people the night sky. So thanks again for everybody that's contributed, helped out, and made these things happen.
All right, very good. Just briefly, we've got a couple viewers online are watching our YouTube, so we're watching passively, we can't see any comments, but welcome and thank you for attending our meeting virtually. So next, I would like to, let me think here, Al Shalafi, where are you? There you are. Stand up or out to the front better if you can, and give us a short and sweet summary of the upcoming September Skies Star Stare. And look pretty for the camera. And look pretty for the camera. Take it away.
September 20th. I'm trying to present on the day. No, calendars, please.
Go on.
Okay. For those of you that have never been to this and are familiar with RMSS, which is our annual Rocky Mountain Star Stare, big 300 people.
21 to
Start for 21 to 24. Thank you. September Skies is a small local club, not necessarily a club only. If you have somebody that wants to go, or you know somebody that wants to go, if you are not a member of CSAS, it's a $10 charge per 4 nights. Excellent skies usually. Shorter days, longer nights. By an hour each way. I find it to be a great time to actually get a heads up or start on the winter constellations if you're willing to stay up until 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock. Then you can fly for 7 to see the light when it's still warm. So it's free to members and no reservations necessary. Just come on down, show up, and enjoy it in my skies.
Thank you. Tom, you want to just like 10 seconds for a quick report? Go ahead.
Yeah, plus, right. So we currently have in the across all our accounts a balance of 26,188, not counting the 1,200 that I just got. So we're up to about 27,500, something like that. I was asked if we could get some patches made. I got patches made. These are patches of the club emblem. I got 50 of them. It cost us $6 a piece to have made. That's our cost. I'm selling them for $6 a piece. You can sew them on shirts, hats, jackets, whatever. And so we've got a whole bunch of these for sale now. Anyone wants a club patch, see me. I also have hats for sale. The usual athletes look like this. I have club hats, so that's what I want to say.
Thank you, Tom. The last Jim and help me out here. What I want to do is to have you and Rick both give some quick reports on you for our activity up at Glendo and Rick for the outreach, the Solar Eclipse outreach activity. I start with Rick and then go to you, and then we can launch into photos. Was there anything else that was on the agenda? That was it? Okay, Rick, come on up.
Good evening. The Colorado Springs Astronomical Society had a wonderful presence at the school, K-12 school in Boise, Wyoming. 5 members of the team, myself, Bob Letton, Rick Lake, David Nasser, Dr. Amanda Hendricks. We had a lot of input into curriculum during the 2016-17 school year. We went up in May and did a whole day with the kids during the last week of classes on solar eclipse. We went back the weekend before the eclipse. On Sunday night, Dr. Amanda Hendricks presented information on the solar eclipse to about 100 some people in the gym. Dr. Amanda Hendricks is a senior scientist at the Planetary Sciences Institute. She's worked for NASA, JPL. She's a lead investigator on Cassini and Juno. She's real deal planetary science. And she came up and was with the kids and with the faculty and did all that. We had a great time. We had wonderful views of the eclipse. And we had one of the neat things watching the kids teach their parents how to look at the partial eclipse other ways besides the glasses. You know, we had calendars and cheese graters, and we put sheets of paper under trees. But we had a wonderful time. Besides all the neat things you'll see tonight, I will remember. hearing all those kids and parents have to tell them,
Oh, wow.
well, we had, I don't know if you included the voice time. You can add about 300 some hours of volunteer time, and you can add about another 400 people.
That's right. Thank you. Okay. Okay. So first of all, Rick, thank you very much for your significant effort in making that outreach event happen. So I'd like, again, just for Rick. Doug Cook, come on up. I'll just make up this agenda as I go. Or remind me, don't forget this, don't forget that. So Doug wanted to talk about his activities up in Casper. Oh, you got photos?
Yeah, make it up as we go.
Okay, so I've got Rick's. I'm trying to. That's all I have, I think. So I can take the number. Good. It's not what to do with that. We got. He filled out a one sheet. We have more on that other sheet. Okay, so I'm going to just transfer to this folder. So which one are we?
We can put that folder.
It might. So the PowerPoint.
It's in the PowerPoint.
Okay, and I also have to share a desktop so that everyone can see all that stuff. If that works. No, I don't. Sorry. I'm not going to have a slide.
Here's my number. It's very complicated.
See if that works. Slideshow.
Slideshow.
And what you have to do first, before we do that, I have to get to here. Right, it's on the screen, but I'm not sharing. So I need to share the entire screen. Okay, I don't know if this is going to work or not. What? Oh, come on.
Sounds like we're for a great job.
Let's just go ahead and do the PowerPoint if it doesn't make it onto the video. Oh, look. Slideshow. Okay.
Okay, in the club, you may remember 6 months or so ago, I announced that American Association of Petroleum Geologists was having their eclipse event up in Casper while Linda was going on, and made an invitation to the club for people to come and have dinner with our astronaut geologist host, Jack Schmidt, who walked the moon, Hall 17, and he's on the left, and Jim Riley, who has done 3 shuttle missions from the late 90s to about 2007. STS 89, 104, and 117. They attended, and we did some astrogeology, so I just want to give you a quick recap of that. We did sell the event out, both the total 4-day event and the dinner was sold out. We had about 120 people there. So for astrogeology, we went up to Lynch, Wyoming, and visited what's called the KT boundary. And any of you have had any exposure to geology know that the dinosaurs went extinct about 65 million years ago, and that 15-kilometer wide asteroid hitting on the Yucatan Peninsula is probably what caused it.
Turn on the lights, please.
Now, what is really awesome is that impact sent an ash layer around the world, and this extinction event, this layer of clay, which is enriched in microtektites, which are related to the impact, shock, quartz, and iridium, all related to the impact, is recognized worldwide. In Wyoming, there is a published example of that we visited. And I have a piece of the KT boundary here during the break. Maybe you can come and look at it. It's just a little layer where half the species on Earth went extinct from below the boundary to above the boundary. That's Jack Schmidt and myself just doing a cheesy pose, Jack's finger on the KT boundary. And then the following day, we went to Douglas, Wyoming, not too far from Glendo, where the club had their total eclipse site, and we visited impact craters. They're not probably too readily apparent, but they cover about a half a kilometer, roughly oval-shaped area. I think that there was an impactor about 15 meters. Probably had a nickel iron impactor to have survived that much at all, and made somewhere between 7 and 10 impact craters that we're trying to actually prove. That's been published before. There was shock quartz found, so that's the smoking gun. But we're sending samples off to a Dr. Kinkman and a university in Germany to study the samples. This is possible ejecta fields related to those impact craters, question marks on some features I'm seeing on Google Earth that may be additional impact craters. And what is really cool in geology in general, we're using drones now to do aerial surveying and get views that you can't really appreciate from the ground. So this is a drone view of what I call crater number 1. I think it's just a very oblique impact going towards the southeast, probably impacted at about a 10-degree angle to the surface. And that crater is, the gross area is about 200 meters, a couple of football fields long. The main crater is a little more than a football field. This is what I call crater 2. You see how it's elongated teardrop? Again, going towards the southeast. It's got to be related to the same impactor. That's probably a debris field. And this is a double crater. Boom, boom. Very close to the one I just showed you. Again, going towards the southeast. And that's probably the ejecta field. So here's Jack Schmidt on the rim of that crater number 1. This is August 20th, 2017, and this is when he was standing on the rim of Shorty Crater on the moon, Apollo 17, back in, what's that, 1973, 45 years ago. And he shared with me that, gee, this is about the same size and depth as Shorty Crater. And that kind of gave chills to me. There he is on the moon. Okay, this was our eclipse viewing site in Casper at the Isaac Walton William Campground. We had an area roped off. We had security guards because we had VIPs. Turns out we probably didn't need it. It was a really cool event. And we saw the eclipse. We had a few cirrus clouds in the sky, but it was generally pretty darn good. And that was my attempt at a composite for the whole eclipse. And this, if it works, is a video. Can you hit enter and see if it goes? Well, I'll press forward.
If I can see. Yeah, just briefly.
It should have gone automatically.
Yeah, it did not. Now it's just, so it's the last thing?
It's the last thing. We can just play it directly from the forward.
Okay, so let's do that.
It didn't play in PowerPoint.
I have no idea what that is. Is this one right here?
Yeah. So this is just a summary video of
Is
a
it play here?
broken
Here we go.
thing.
I think, oh no. Oh yeah.
That's close.
Okay, so there's our Jack Schmidt and Jim Riley, our VIPs. Staring at the sun with eclipse glasses and looking all nerdy. They graciously posed for photographs with the entire crowd, and also signed books. And here's your book.
Where are you in this?
At the moment, I was taking
You're taking the video?
Yeah,
I thought maybe the
I've got a camera set up. You'll see in a minute, but I happen to be in the camera. Right now, I'm sitting behind that silver thing, and we've got the security guard photobombing my camera. There is sound in here when the eclipse happened. I mean, they were all applauding, cheering. Yours truly was.
He's body
was
camming
crying.
it, recording it.
Yeah. Okay, 20 seconds. Take the filter off. I'm hopefully catching Bailey's beads and the diamond ring. And there's the eclipse. The time, but it's just absolutely dramatic. When it's over, it's just like turned on the switch, and the sun came back.
Cool.
And just by the second, you see how much brighter it gets. It's my 8-inch dot, and that was the star of the show. I had a solar filter on that. People came up there all day long with their cell phones. We're taking pictures through the eyepiece, sneaking up on my camera, and if you hear the audio, I'd say again. I wanted it to repeat.
Yeah.
So you can security guard. There's my daughter. we can just end it right there. That's fine. It's better with the audio, but that's fine. So a good time was had.
I'm gonna get
See,
out of
we did have a few clouds. I don't know what we had. But I'm about to find out.
Yeah.
Thank you for the time there, Scott.
Well, all right.
I'll leave a sample of the K2 boundary up here. Very fragile, so just kind of look at it. We don't have to pick it up. That's where half the life on Earth died. Right? There's a propaganda here. Spruce actually gave me a jar of Casey boundary place on that location.
Okay, thank you, Doug. Jim. So I'm going to have Jim just kind of talk about the eclipse event up at Glendale, and then we'll launch into photos. And so I can orchestrate that here. So Jim.
So I don't have any slides or movies or anything, so for cheesiness of presentation. But anyway, so what we did is we had about 50 some people in the club, plus family and friends that, I think we had about 155 people total up there. And I'll tell you what, the park, I was a little apprehensive going up there, just not knowing exactly what to expect. It could have worked out better, I don't think. I mean, there was about a 2-mile stretch of grass between the road and the lake. It was maybe 150 yards between the road and the lake. And there was nobody on it. And they said, "This is your guys' section." So we were able to set up. They gave us kind of an area they thought what the boundaries were. And we filled it up pretty well, but there was nobody for a mile this way, nobody for a mile that way. Every time somebody with a camera pulled in, the security folks from the park were there. We had that whole area to ourselves all weekend. we got there, a lot of us got there Thursday. The skies were blue, not a cloud in the sky. Friday, same. Saturday, same. Sunday, same. Monday, same. It was absolutely beautiful weather. I think the best part of it, other than the eclipse, was the fact that the park really went out of their way to take good care of us. They regularly, we had the park superintendent, the deputy superintendent, their chief of security, and we actually had a security guy. He was a former Air Force cop that works for the state parks now, on a mountain bike. And he was patrolling the area. He stopped by, and I bet he probably talked to just about everybody that was there. And I think he knew everybody's name by the second name. And I have to say they were very, very gracious, very helpful to us. And then we did some observing. I didn't do any Thursday night. I know a couple folks were out there. I went to bed. I was tired, but Friday, Saturday, Sunday night we had star parties, and we weren't overrun with people. We had a lot of interested folks. We had a lot of people that were guests of people that attended with us. It was very low key. It was very comfortable. And I thought I had a great time doing it. Sunday night, we got a little bit of clouds, so I was a bit nervous for Monday, but I got up about 4:45 in the morning, walked out of my camper, and there was a ride just gleaming in the southern sky. Not a cloud to be seen. I mean, it was absolutely perfect. So that's kind of the report I have. I think you're going to see a lot of pictures that people took. I know a few guys that posted some stuff on Facebook or whatever. There were some pretty amazing photographs that our guys took. One other thing I did want to add, I don't know if you guys noticed on Channel 21 News Monday night, they actually had about a 3-minute segment because Justin Chambers, the chief meteorologist for Channel 21, he contacted us, I don't know, several months ago, wasn't it? April, I think. And I think he had talked to Hal previously. And he said, is it possible that I could join you guys for the eclipse? And they wanted to broadcast live during the eclipse. I think they commented the network would be so saturated they couldn't get through it. They actually had some live shots early in the morning. And my wife said, hey, I see our camera on TV. She's hanging up my text. And they interviewed some more folks that featured interviewees on there. And they was on there. My tent was on Twitter. And then also we got from our sister club down in Alice Springs. Where are they from? Adelaide, Australia. Steve Dubrock and his family, they came up here. They were actually born in the Western United States, and they were able to join us for several days. And so it's really cool. So they interviewed him as well. And since he was on TV, they actually did a segment from Casper because they were diverting all the traffic north, leaving the park after the event. So they ended up staying in Casper and did a live feed from there back to Colorado Springs and broadcast it. So if you haven't seen it, I think, I know it's on our Facebook site, and I don't know if it's posted to our website anywhere yet, but we can probably put that up there as well, the link to the Gen 1 newscast. So that was kind of cool, I thought. But anyway, so we had a great time, and I'll just let these guys show the picture.
Okay, let's see, Rick, I recall, Rick once said that you needed to get back up to the up north, and so that is right at the okay, so I think I've got yours right here. So are these all JPEG?
I believe so.
You don't have any videos in here?
Nope.
Okay.
No videos.
And open with photos. Here's no, that's not going to work. That's for PowerPoint presentations. What? Can't open this file. What?
Art.
Don't use photos, just click on it out of the drive.
Sorry, say again?
Don't use that photos app, just click on it out of the drive. Exactly.
Yeah, that's a doc file, it's Mac, it will not run on a Windows box. It's kind of half shaded out, go to the ones that are
They
full
took them
color.
all off of.
Go down, okay, that's the first one you can use.
Here's Bob Litton, Carol. Bob set up his scope. These are all the people in Du Bois looking at watching the eclipse.
Let's see if this works. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Dance away.
These are more of the people. The caution tape was around a scope that the National Science Foundation sent students at the Du Bois School, and there were 4 young ladies there taking bracketed photos of the eclipse. They did a wonderful job.
Hang on, I'm just going to do a quick screen share.
Okay. I've seen a lot more experienced astronomers that didn't work as well together as a team. They were fantastic. They got a lot more out of it than just the data that the National Science Foundation wanted.
That is so bizarre.
I'm going to put this here because I don't want to touch anything and goof things up.
Okay, let's just keep going.
Okay.
Yeah, we're fine.
Yeah. So this is David Nasser's picture of the diamond ring, and that's actually Bailey's beads taken from Du Bois. And there's his corona photograph. This is again David Nasser. It's extended corona. The corona was just amazing. I couldn't see Regulus, Mercury, or Mars. I think it's because the corona was so dramatic. This is the diamond ring on the exit, and you can see the prominence above there.
Rick,
Yeah.
go back to the previous. Regulus is right down by the left arrow.
Yeah.
Oh.
The arrow. Yeah, Regulus,
Regular.
Wow.
Yeah, I could see it through the scope during the.
I had looked at these pictures and I hadn't spotted it.
There it is.
Thank you.
There's a part. What? Oh, it disappears when you go to the next frame. No, it is goes.
You recognize some of these people, showing people how to look at the eclipse through one of the scopes.
Yeah, Rick, I got to try this one more time. I think
Oh, sorry.
Okay, there you go.
Sorry.
Yeah.
The lady in the center is Katie Barngrover. She was the teacher at the school that helped us with everything. And by the way, most of the team stayed in homes provided by the school's faculty.
You click on hide there.
What?
Click on hide.
This is one of our. This was the partial eclipse through a colander. This was the crowd on Sunday night for Dr. Hendricks. One lady is Dr. Hendricks, and next to her is Brent Blake, David Nasser, Bob Litton, and I'm standing out there in front yammering. This is Dr. Hendricks again. She did a wonderful job. And boy, people asked good questions, and she was fantastic at fielding them. And I forget whose picture this is of the eclipse. It was just taken with cell phone. That's it.
okay. Okay, so let's see what we got here. So that was angels. Okay, I think I'm ready for the first one. Wanda. Whoever's up next, just
Come on, honey, you can do it. Just lob it out.
yeah. It's not the thing she throws at me. Okay, now, okay, so Tom, help me out here because I also put Fred, Fred's, okay, so what I'm gonna do is roll this off here. And I've got Fred's because we, and all Fred's do is, and Tom has one more here. Yeah, I just, I think. Okay, so I think that's it. So let's start with yours. And same thing, I guess, right?
Yeah. Can you go back out of that for a second? Okay, so we got two versions of the same one, so we can see. Okay. So I was using my my 5-inch FA APO as my camera lens, using a digital 40D camera. This is my fourth total eclipse. So I've had a little experience. This is the first time I've been able to use something bigger than 400 millimeter telephoto lens. So I said, boy, this is the chance finally to use a nice APO telescope. And so the field of view so big, I couldn't even get the entire corona into the field of view, but that's okay because some of the close-ups you can see are really nice. So this was sort of the medium-sized corona shot on a medium scale. Go ahead. Okay. That's I think that was the largest one, but everything that's field of view. I mean, close to the corner. Again, my fourth total, the corona here was about double the size of the corona I've seen in the total clips in the past. I mean, it was really dramatic. The sun is very active, as you know. We saw a lot of sunspots on the surface. The sunspots near the lens, which is what was causing those enormous coronal extensions. So that really made for dramatic, really bright as well. It didn't get nearly as dark during totalities the other three that I've seen in the past, just for what it's worth. This is a close-in, very tight shot, right after Bailey Bees. The Bailey Bees is pretty much gone down here.
There's a red laser pointer on that thing, it's like the red up toward the top.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm going to just pretty much finish covering up the sun. You can see that one nice big flare. You'll see it later. Another shot close up. Here's another shot, a little long exposure. I started at 2,000, and I worked my way down to 4 seconds. During totality. This is the beads coming out of their contact. I caught it just right. I caught the shot so you can see that flare. And the flare's down here and up here. That is a great shot. I got lucky, you know.
That should be our t-shirts.
Next time. Actually, I saw a couple other people that something similar to this as well. But you can't beat the resolution of a 5-inch, dramatic telescope. It just gets such a nice resolution in these magnifications. Now this is a 2-second exposure. Grossly overextended. And you can see what I did was I want to get a long enough exposure to see if I can tease out the moon itself. And you can see the moon. Because they pull it out. You're trying, so if you're on the moon, you're it's like full moon phase, right? Full earth phase. So the moon is getting all the light on it. And I was able to do some processing, and you can see in the original, you can see Tycho and the rays and mountains and all the sparring seas in that shot. I mean, it's amazing the detail in the original if you're looking at it on history. So I did this last time in 2012, but I didn't get it in here. It's nice. But I had more aperture and tracking and all that. I guess I should tell some, yeah. It's my, I call that my 10-carat diamond ring. That's my 20-carat diamond ring. I think that's my last one.
think I found your photos.
So that's one comment I wanted to make. I understand the camera. I can't have one. I was filming it. I used to wide angle lens. Yeah, I took a series of totality of a wide angle shot to see if I could capture the stars and the planets. And so I get that developed. We'll see what.
Remember, that's the laser pointer. Don't remember what happened last time. People standing up. We got a couple of chairs right here. We got here. You can see anything. We got 3 chairs here.
Also want to remind you that there's a second sheet of the attendance sheet going around with the balance filled out, please do. And if you visitors and did not get a visitor's card, please see me at the break. Okay. Well, I'm not sure of the sequence because we had a little technical thing with Scott. We're doing a great job getting together. Thanks, Scott. And we had a little Windows glitch, not my favorite programming, but what can you do? Anyway, I took a simple approach, as soon as you know, because I spoke to you about it. I kept it simple on the tripod, the SLR, and the zoom lens with a tele extender and filters. That was it. I moved it as I needed, and I was just pleased that I got the images I did. Following Columbus, quite tough act to follow, but we do the best we can. So you can see we do have the sets of sunspots here and over here. So that worked out really good that I was able to pull those out with some processing. And now you'll see the progression as we go a little bit further, and some of the sunspots will process a little bit better as well. So now we're getting a little bit more of the phasing as far as the moon coming across. This is a little bit more of the crescent involved here. A little bit thinner, and I'm not positive if one of the ones coming up is actually Bailey's beams or not. The experts will let me know since this was my first one, and we can determine still a nice thin crescent here. And down here at the bottom is what I was hoping might have been the beginning part of some of Bailey's beams.
You had a filter on.
What's that?
You had a filter still on.
At that point in time,
Definitely got breaks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you had a filter, you can take the filter on, you probably would have.
yeah, but I wasn't sure at what point we can stage that to take it off of my sensor on the camera, so I left it on just a brief bit longer there. Okay, so there it is. This was actually a little bit later, and this was just pulling back the exposure of post-processing. I didn't do any HDR, just one simple shot. Pulled it back to get the flares. So what we have here, this is without the nice colors that Tom had. There's another one down here. And you can see some of the little bit of the future colors around the edge. I was so pleased to get any of that I'm just a happy camper that it worked out well. And this was one of the coronal exposures here. Now, here's one of the things they were asking about. There is Regulus down there. It's faint, but it's there. Okay, and I did one more with Regulus, but you can see the filamentary look of the coronas here. I was real happy that some of the detail, especially in here, came out pretty good. You can see the extent of the corona, and it was a happy result. I was just real pleased with that. This I brightened up so that you can actually get a better look at Regulus down here. So I upped the exposure on that just to get a better look at things. So that's what we got.
I thought there was one, you had one called composite.
Oh, that's right. The composite would have been the first one.
There you go.
But there we go. And for some reason, that was not on the original that came up here. But that's where the Bailey beads were. And you can see the progression across here that I got. I only took 2 shots afterwards, so it wasn't really that impressive to put those in there. I wanted to get all the phasing that I could up here. Even though I got even more phasing, I cut at least half of them out because of the size. I didn't want to go 3 rows wide on it. Anyway, thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. So we're, I'm not going to have a break at all. I think we're just going to, we got about an hour to keep rolling through photos. Restrooms are right on the other side of this wall, so just take a break as you need to. Yeah, sure. I've got, hang on, here we go. So I've got three photos from Ben Freeman and one from Scott Robertson. So where's Ben? Ben, are you here? Scott, are you here? All right, well, let's just show them. Okay, so this is one of Ben Freeman's. The next one. And this was not the eclipse. Okay, you can hold the lights up. I think I can get this last one from Scott Robertson. Oh, this is a PowerPoint. Okay, lights. Okay, so Scott Robertson, not here, maybe perhaps he's online. So we're just going to, if you are, we're just going to step through your photos, be the PowerPoint presentation. This was his setup. And that's, as a photograph, that's what it looks like. There he is. Nice view of the crowd. He's calling it Nerd City. What? We'll talk with him later. And you see on the right-hand side, you got someone doing the Bruce book out, crossing your fingers and making little crescent suns on the back of the chair. Kind of identifying the sunspots. All right, try to, yeah, right there, and then a few down there. The anticipation is building. I guess that's it. What? Click to add a picture. Oh, here we go. What?
Did I filter on during the hotel?
Take off the filter. There you go. That's too funny. So 35 seconds into totality, plus 70 seconds, put the filter on quickly, and our exiting totality. There it is, all over. Okay, detail. Lights, please. Okay, now. So what I'm going to do here, this is, I'm going to put the next thumb drive in, and whoever identifies it is theirs. Want to get, you know whose this is? Oh, that's Tom's. Here, do you want to pick this one? Is this Tom's? No, this was, I think it's Tom's. Okay. There's two movies over close to that. Okay, so, okay, so let me spread this over. Okay, so you want me to do the movies first? Or the okay. So, lights up. Hey, here's the click advancer and
So I was up in Du Bois, Wyoming with Rick and the rest of the gang and all the hike traveling up here. This is I-80 out of there. 7:30 Sunday morning. They're the only ones on the road. Just thought I'd push that there. Yeah. It's not. Just the arrow one.
yeah. It doesn't work. I'll advance it.
Not working. This is 287 on the way up to Du Bois. A lot of traffic, more traffic.
Oh, it is working. You just
I
advanced
just did it that first. This is the basketball court in Du Bois school that we had set up on. I just want up on the top of there, the ridge up there. You can't see it. The whole ridge is lined up with other homes. People just lined up there to observe the eclipse. This was looking east, and then it doesn't want to go.
Okay, just next.
And then this is looking west again. That the ridge up there. There was all kinds of company vehicles and other people up there observing things. They wanted to be as close to the eclipse as they could.
That little peak you can see,
Pardon me?
the peak behind the school there,
Yeah.
we were able to see the shadow hit that peak and then rush down that slope towards. And there's a video that I haven't seen yet. What I do.
And here's our Rick. And who's this Dave? They're having a little discussion. This is Brent. It was exciting. We thought this was a cute picture. And I think these are our hosts. Rick mentioned that we were put up by the families. This is Bill and Cheryl Ryan. She's retired from teaching at the school. They're both environmentalists, really super neat people. We did a little impromptu star party for them Monday night at their place. I'm showing Bill a little bit about using plants here. They have a nice time out there. And they look at the stars, but they don't know what's up there. So and they have to have a planetarium or a planetary, and they show them how to use it so that they can look at the sky a little bit more detail. This is a view from our little cabin on their lot, which backyard, the Wind River is down there in that tree line. This is the cabin. Let me say it. Really neat cabin.
Oh, okay.
Now, just got a picture. These are going to be shadow bands. This is pre-eclipse, just prior to going into totality, the first one. And you'll notice that you just see a few of them. It's not as pronounced. This is item about 15 seconds, maybe. And the next one is post. Right after the elder.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much going on at this time. Most of you know that it's like, what do you do next? And I just had my iPhone and just started taking this.
It's pretty cool. I mean, I thought they'd be more like waves. This looks more like ripples on a cat.
Yeah, yeah. Next day.
I've just got to see it again.
Oh, dude.
That is really cool.
That's the best video that I've ever seen.
Wow, excellent.
Everybody's yelling
Lights,
word
baby.
shadow bands.
Bob, your thumb drive. On to the next. I'm not making you work, am I? You wanted to sit on this side? Might be easier for you. Okay, whose is this? Okay, so what are we looking at, Al?
There should be the movie on there.
Eclipse 2017 WMD?
Yeah. But you don't do sound, is that right?
I don't, I can't figure out how to get sound to work on this.
Okay.
I mean, it's supposed to be at 100%, but whatever.
Rather than taking pictures of the actual local star, I tried to just get a picture of the people that were there, and you can see the hill in the distance and the two balloons. The object, I was hoping to catch the shadow as it came across, but that didn't work out, unfortunately. But you can see, you know, out there on the horizon, it's slowly starting to get darker. And the clock in the lower left-hand corner is off by about 5 minutes.
You know, I was out there and I never saw those words. I never saw those.
You have to be standing.
You were on the other end.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
you're
what
at
it
the wrong
was.
end.
I was on the other side.
That little bit of brightening, I think, may have been a reflection off that tablet or whatever that guy was using there. You can see the one balloon firing.
Oh, yeah.
Actually, that balloonist was taking video and it's on YouTube.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, if you search Glendo Eclipse Balloon on YouTube, it'll come up. The video that one of the pilots took. Very cool.
There's no time compression in this, so you have to sit through the 2.5 minutes.
Oh, dear, no problem.
You guys rolled up.
Oh, one thing that was happening here, that's why I was asking if you had sound. If you remember from How I Met Your Mother, they had a couple of episodes with the Woo Girls. We had the Woo Girls here. Going, woo! Woo! I won't repeat that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's amazing how long it was here and how short it was on the field.
And I heard from quite a few people, you know, when it suddenly brightened up, how the color of the sun at that point was more blue than we're used to.
Yes.
And it may just have been, you know, our eyes getting used to it. And unfortunately, the camera didn't pick that up.
Did you all at Glendo notice a dramatic decrease in temperature?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
We took temperature readings. It was 81 before the eclipse started, and it was 64 at the end of totality.
Wow. Some of us did not actually put on a
We had our dogs out there during the eclipse, and one of the dogs actually went over to a coat laying on the ground and curled up and went to sleep. Or tried to.
It seems a lot longer on the video. Yeah. It's like about 20 times longer on the video.
Yep, that's brighter. And we go. I think that's still going.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, just a couple seconds left. Confirmation, like Jim said, there was not a cloud in the sky. So here's proof.
Al, was that your GoPro?
It's a Chinese knockoff.
Dave, lights.
I'll come over. Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you. Next. Okay. I've got this one. Bob, these are yours? Okay. Yep, Dixie, right here. So which ones are we looking at?
Into the folder. No, up, top. Big C, clip 17, double click on the top one. Should be good.
Dave?
So I don't know if any of you got down to the dam, but this is the Glendo Reservoir Dam. We went down on a day trip. I decided to enjoy the eclipse, and so I had a telescope set up that I was just visually looking through. I didn't really take any. I think I took 10 pictures of totality, just handheld with my 70 to 200 zoom, and I was kind of surprised what I got, but I think I took 10 total. But I got a bunch of pictures of us, there. Most of these are. Sorry?
Back up. Okay, thanks.
Oh, back. Yeah. Back up. I'm over here. I thought this was a pretty good picture of Hal. He was
It looks like Lieutenant Colonel Hal Bidlack retired.
He
was actually sleeping.
The Furman girls were there. They're always good targets. They were torturing frogs.
Lily-
Learning about frogs.
Lily and Rose.
This is a view of the camp from the other side of the road, looking down the field. You can see the reservoir out there. Later, I'm not sure I have another picture, but there's a bunch of cottonwood trees on both sides of us. This is the Fox 21 News guys Monday morning taking pictures of Bruce. This is the meteorologist interviewing Bruce.
Justin had a lot of trouble understanding the concept of a kilt.
You're asking me about girlfriends. No, just no.
I understand the kilt.
It wasn't the kilt, it was those boots, Bruce.
Yeah. So this is my 80 millimeter refractor with a white light on it. Hal looking through it. Hal said that this was some funny setup where they're taking pictures of us taking pictures.
Yeah.
So we had fun. This is Tom being interviewed by the 21 guys. So that's the 5-inch refractor that you got your really nice pictures through.
So I see myself and Wanda, and I think that's Joy.
Yep.
And Matt, and then that's Steve Duplop
Right.
from Adelaide, his son.
Right. These are the two guys from Australia. They came over to my telescope Monday night after the start parties, and so I got to show them lots of stuff in the northern sky that they were excited to see. During the start parties, I tracked down Pluto each night and actually got to show it to quite a few people that showed up at the start parties. That was kind of fun because it's hard to see. This is Vicky with the sunspotter. Hannah with the PST. The Furmans with their glasses.
Wow, I didn't know one of their daughters was a Cyclops.
More pictures. There's Vicky.
Breakfast, man.
This was Ted's setup with his two cameras. I'm sure we'll see pictures of this later, right, Cliff?
At least one.
I'm not sure who was taking the other documentary.
Kelsey
Kelsey, okay.
Oh, yes.
from Los Angeles.
Handed my camera to somebody that took my picture.
You know Susan?
Hey, and Susie. Jill and the girls. Susie. My wife Linda. Mom. Yeah. Scott.
So I traded hats with my daughter. Just out of goes.
Sure you did.
Well, I figured Bruce is wearing a kilt. You know,
It's a good look.
I'll wear a girl's sunbonnet.
Trying to make an analogy.
It's kind of coordinated.
This is Bruce's setup. I didn't get a picture of you burning holes in the paper. But it is on the Fox 21.
Yeah, it's on the
video.
Fox 21 video, yeah.
But Bruce would pull the towel away and put it off just off the sun and burn a hole through it, through some paper in its secondary. This was your
Sun
there's
funnel.
sun funnel. So there's an eyepiece with a oil filter with some rubbery kind of stuff on the top. And he was very active with it. Talking to all kinds of people.
A lot of different people come in.
This was kind of our setup on the eclipse day for it. There's the balloons coming across. It's starting to get thin. Balloons get across. So this was about, in Hal's video, this was pretty close to totality right here. So just handheld, this is what I got. The first shot, I had it on 70 millimeters, and then I realized, oh yeah, right. And so I zoomed it out to 200 millimeters, quickly focused on some distant mountains, flipped it to manual focus, and went up to the sun, and got the corona.
Nice.
This is with a 6D with a Canon 70-200 f4 lens. I think I was shooting a 5.6. And not this exact image, but another one of them. I just took, it was shot at the same exposure, but I took the exposure down in Lightroom. Oh, next image. This was kind of what I remember all the horizons around us looking like.
Yep.
So I thought I'd bring a picture of that in case somebody else had one. This was that same previous picture, only you reduced the exposure down, and I was surprised that just handheld at 200 millimeters, you could get some of the prominence. And this is the diamond range, and there's Regulus.
Oh, yeah.
And this is Susie staring at it afterwards. It was quite moving for her.
She did move for quite a long time.
No, she doesn't. Well, she said she was trying to remember it all.
Yeah.
She was just replaying it in her head. This is Jim having the and Scott talking afterwards.
Yeah, I was basically looking at Jim saying, why are you drinking whiskey and I'm not?
And then that evening I wandered down to the trees, and they had this nice green. No, it's some kind of leafy thing that has really those burrs that were on the ground. Those things produce them. That's what I got. Oh, when we got home Tuesday, our DVR had picked up a Nova that had aired Monday night, the 21st. And it was actually on the eclipse. And they had some live that day coverage in it. And so that is up on pbs.org, an hour show of the eclipse. And they talked about the corona, and how the corona is like 1,000,000 degrees. And it's because of these micro flares. It's the, anyway, you gotta go see it. Cool. Pretty cool.
Close the picture and go all the way down.
I saw that Nova show too, and it was interesting that the corona is hotter than the surface of the sun.
Oh, way hotter.
Yeah,
It's because it's the
bottom four
magnetic lines
files
that
that we're
snap.
play.
It makes it noticeable.
Yeah, 3 movies in a still.
Really?
Okay, so start with movie number 1.
All right, so I was shooting, this is a time lapse of the partial phases. This was shooting through a 60 millimeter scope with my Canon DSLR at 30-second intervals, which meant I had about 360 images I had to register and put into the animation.
Oh, dear.
I got one shot of totality, and then the partial phase is coming out.
Nice.
Yeah, so my mistake on totality was getting trigger happy and forgetting that my camera has about a 2-second lag on a long exposure before it's ready to adjust the settings. So I got 9 shots of 3-second exposures before I realized, oh, yeah, I'm not bracketing anything.
All right, so that was the partial phases. The next image here, this is with the GoPro, and it's about 12 minutes right around totality. I'm shooting 2-second intervals on a time lapse. So about 5 minutes before totality, and then totality hits in about 5 minutes after. So these, let's see, these people that came in here got in just before totality, and were kind enough about 10 seconds before totality ends to give me that beautiful point up in the sky pose. You'll see that back in a minute. So now, totality has just happened. It's less than 2 minutes later, and notice the exodus. Yeah.
We watched that for the next 5 hours.
Those people got home 3 hours sooner than the rest of them.
Exactly. All right, so this last one is a series of shots, mostly by me and my dad, with a couple of just random strangers to take pictures of both of us. But I was really psyched. My dad is 76 years old. He flew in from Washington, D.C. specifically so we could go to the eclipse together. And so this is pretty awesome. So, that was the morning sunrise. The lay, by the way, is a guy had a Hawaiian shaved ice truck, and so, you know. Nothing says Wyoming eclipse like a flower lay.
I'm keeping that lay forever as a souvenir.
Or as Dave's colander. So my dad had a small point and shoot, and he set the exposure early on for a good daylight image. And then through the course of the partial phase leading into totality, he left the exposure fixed. So these next several shots are showing you how the camera perceived darkness leading into totality. And then a couple of frames out of the GoPro. So my diamond ring is kind of a wide field. Just a couple of point and clicks, my one shot of totality, and then coming back out. And then, so again, we're now just coming out, starting to get lighter. My dad got a great shot of the line of cars already leaving. Yeah, trying to leave.
That sat there for 4 hours plus.
Yep.
And then this was us going north out of Glendo and then on I-25. Now, for this last one, I took frames out of my time-lapse series of the partial phase and one frame out of the GoPro and did a composite. By putting up a bunch of the GoPro frames simultaneously, I could figure out that was, in fact, roughly the sweep in the sky of the sun. And then literally just put a piece of acetate up and drew lines on it on this monitor so I could put the partial phases in at approximately the right place. And then again, the people were just immensely kind to keep me this beautiful pose. So that's probably my favorite of everything I captured.
Okay. Go next.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, whose is this?
That's mine. Let's see. You want the bottom one only.
That is very nice. Look at that. Look at that.
That's a 10-image stack from 2000th to 1 second. Taken on my backup camera because my primary camera turned out to be out of focus.
Oh.
So, but anyway, this came out really nice and sharp.
They say they're beautiful.
And what really struck me about the eclipse is that this image.
Totality, and this runs about 2.5 minutes. And the shadow bands were still running after I turned my camera off. The white sheet, by the way, belongs to Randy Atwood, who's the executive director of the Royal Astronomical Society of Canada. So he was with our tour group. Our tour group had about 75 Americans, 25 Canadians, and 1 Aussie. It was a really wonderful trip. But here you can see, one thing that really struck me is you can see at times that shadow bands appear to change directions. And they were more pronounced in real life than you can see here in the video. They kind of come and go in intensity, but at times they change direction. And as I said, it went on for several minutes. I was really, this was my 6th total eclipse, and I've never seen them last as long as they did for this particular eclipse. I'm not sure why they went on so long. You know, we were, I think, at about 6,000 or 7,000 feet elevation. And like other people reported, we had very pronounced temperature drop, much more than any previous eclipse that I've seen or I've been to. Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Elevation, yeah. You can see they're still going, and this is, you know, really, this is a minute and a half after I started shooting the movie. I mean, I actually went on so long, I started to get kind of bored, so. And maybe you will too.
So did you look at this the whole time and miss the eclipse?
Yeah, no, because this was after totality, yeah. But we were, you know, at this moment, this was probably the most interesting thing going on. And, you know, we don't have the audio on, but there were several of us looking, and we were kind of amazed that the shadow bands went on as long as they did. So it was really pretty cool. You can still see them. And if you look carefully, like at times they're going in different, they go one direction and then another. The only previous time I saw shadow bands was 2006 in the Libyan desert, and there the shadow bands just went one way. So I found this one really pretty interesting. Thanks.
Okay. I don't want to do a video. I'm not technically savvy enough to figure this out. Okay, so
just start on 0, I guess. I'm going to go through it pretty quick. I know we're running late.
I think we're doing okay.
Just going to go real quick here. I'm really new to the astronomy stuff, especially the astrophotography, but I like this one. Here's my safety violation. That's a space blanket, sorry. And this is a lens flare. So if you catch the lens flare just right, you can actually get some crescent in there. So that's why I like that picture.
Is it advancing for you? No? Okay, I'll just do it. Just tell me next.
Thanks. Yeah, just click through these. There's the Bailey Speeds. Sell a lot of those. I was just using like a cheapo Chinese lens, 500 millimeter. You can go through. That's probably my favorite picture that I got. I didn't have the exposure, the shutter speed slow enough to get any of the good corona.
Can you scoot back?
Oh, yeah, sorry. Okay, just go.
Nice.
Keep going.
Yeah, we're kind of taking it in here.
Yeah, there's
you know.
Got some of the solar flare thing that other people like too during totality. Yeah. That's probably my favorite one. It's not as good as the one that the gentleman up here had, but it's probably my favorite. Second favorite.
That's my
I think that's good for pictures. You can go to the video.
Okay. Video.
So do the valley first. This is the location that's Captain Steve White and I were at. If you watch, you can kind of see it, I think, go out over this back valley back here. When it rolls out, you can kind of see the shadow go with it. This is time lapse.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So we had a really good location. And then I did a time lapse of the whole thing, which is also pretty fast.
That's in Glendon, right?
No, that's Guernsey State Park. And it's alright, it's like jiggling. I had to hand arrange all of those center everything.
Nice.
Very nice.
Well done. Yep. What's your name again?
Michael Stockton. Thank you.
Okay, what do you want me to do?
Just start at the top.
You want the, yes, right here. And if it doesn't advance, let me know. And
Can't have it in close.
The red in the middle is the pointer.
yeah, the red one in the middle is the pointer. Oh, let me make that full screen. There we go.
All right, most of you recognize what that is. I've been waiting about 38 years since the last eclipse to be able to try to photograph it. I did it back at our first anniversary. I took my wife up there, and again, I tell people this, but they don't believe me, but it's actually true. It was my anniversary gift, and that's before I knew that's not what you give twice for anniversary gifts. But in any case, that's what I'm waiting for. So next. This is about 2 minutes before totality, testing out some of the filters and things like that. I noticed there are a bunch of sunspots on it, so I thought, well, maybe we can go in a little closer and see what there was.
Do you mean did you say 2 minutes before totality or 2 minutes before first contact?
First contact. I mean, yeah, this is 2 minutes before totality. I mean, before first contact. Yeah, okay. And this is actually just designed. You can actually see not just the central part, but you can also see some flares coming out from around the edges of it. I thought that was a little bit interesting.
Does anybody know what you call that kind of lighter region around the sunspot?
Penumbra.
Penumbra? I heard something like a word like flake.
This is just about halfway. This was kind of the first shot, and I realized I had set my camera up for a sequence from 1/4000th of a second down to actually 6 minutes. And I realized that everything after about 1 minute was probably a total waste of time. So I look at something like this is one for about 1/4000th of a second. And you can start seeing some detail on it. Probably the most interesting part, of course, are the prominences that you start seeing here. When I saw it on Time Life magazine the other day, I noticed that the shape of those things changed by the second as the moon was going across. So it was very interesting. Thought I'd go a little bit closer and get a little bit closer picture of it. I have one more where you can see, realizing that's about the size of the Earth. It kind of gives you a little bit of a perspective.
It's about 2 Earth diameters, actually.
2 Earth diameters. Okay. This was an attempt at a composite of 4 different photos that I made. One with the prominences that you had just seen. One where there's an overexposure. You actually can see the moon reflection from the sun to the Earth to the moon back again. A regulus down there, and then an extent, a reasonably large extent of the corona. And if you look close, I noticed that there's a lot of, let's do this here. There's quite a bit of detail coming around here, and even areas where the the solar wind is distorted. So it's quite interesting. I thought I'd try one with one photograph. This is just one photograph. Of course, you can see Regulus down there. To me, this reminds me of Felix the cat. Maybe with a bowling ball coming right at his face. But it was interesting that I had a large extent of the streamers coming out from the sun. You can't see the detail because of the overexposure, but you can start seeing where there are some evidences for the chromosphere as well on it. And it's one of my favorite pictures.
The lunar features.
Yeah, and well, right. The part of it was the exposure. This was a long enough exposure that
from this one picture, you can also see like there's oceanic room, you know, on the moon. You can see the critters on the moon, things like that. So it was interesting. This was a shot that I took during the at the end of third contact, where when it's coming out the diamond ring effect. It's a little bit longer exposure, but there is you can still see a lot of detail. Again, here you can still see it. I think it's now a pen on the screen, but not all the streamers are vertical out from the sun along the magnetic lines. Some of them are counter that. So I was looking hard and I couldn't see any solar mass ejection taking place, but there may have been in some of the other photos. This was one I had three people. I had my daughter and my son. I gave a camera to my son and asked him to take a series of photos. This was one he got and this is shot at 16 millimeters, so it's kind of enlarged. That's why the quality isn't very good. Very, very wide angle, and you know the sun is fairly visible on it. But it was kind of nice because it was he had to stop down and you get the effect of the sparkling coming off the sun. And I thought, well, that's interesting. And so I decided to put that in composite with a number of photos that I had him take every 8 minutes of the sun beforehand. And I thought, well, you know, how do we make people feel at home that didn't go to see the eclipse? Well, I thought, well, you know, this actually did not take place quite like this. But, you know, it's what you can dream about tonight when you go home. If you didn't get a chance to see it, you know, coming over Colorado Springs, and of course that's to the west. Right?
2045, this is what we'll see.
But I'll have to admit, the spirit is there, you know. So if you didn't see it, this is what it would have looked like from beginning to the end. And that's it.
All right. Yeah, I know I'm fully charged. There you go.
Thank you.
They're all in order. John Schmidt, met several of you at the Astro Imaging group that Brian hosts, and you guys actually last time we met inspired me to actually take the camera with me and give it a go, but I wanted to try it with, you know, not worrying about it at the same time. So I geared up my Raspberry Pi to run my shutter and do all my stopping, and that was in Nebraska. And that's my diamond ring. We had a little bit of trouble with clouds, but I was still able to get some really decent images. And this prominence down here especially was a lot bigger in Nebraska than it was for anybody in Wyoming from all the images that I've seen. So I just wanted to point that out with a couple of frames that I took, because I suspected from ones I saw already floating around Facebook and stuff that that was the case. But I have one here. This is my very first attempt at actually post-processing to bring out all those coronal lines. The rest of those are just raw frames right out of my camera. So if you're in Nebraska and have clouds to fight, you can still actually get a decent picture. So hire some of the rest of you. That's all I got. Just yank it out.
Just yank it out?
Yeah.
Okay. Do we have any more? Matt, do you have any photos?
Sir? What was your name?
John.
Do you have any photos?
I got some.
I have one that I'll show you later.
Just like 3 or 4 of mine.
Okay.
I don't need to do the video.
Just start with that.
Yeah, just we'll click through them. I don't know what order. When I was doing the when I was out there, I had my solar telescope set up to just capture the sun. I had my laptop computer inside a little tent that sits on a table that people could come up before the eclipse, through the partial phases, and then anybody that was still remaining after totality and everybody else booked off, that people could come and look through my telescope and look at the sun. So I processed just a couple of those photos. I was capturing 1,000 frames just over and over and over again through totality and everything. I still have a lot more to do. So next slide. Just so you can see in this is a black and white camera, so on post-processing, I got to get where all the colors are the same. But you can see the sunspots that were there on the sun, and there'll be a flare later, or a prominence on the side that I'll show later. Next slide. These are pretty much in order, actually. So just about right before totality, we got just that little bit of that sunspot left on there. Next slide. That prominence that people were showing in their total eclipse pictures, that was a prominence as it was showing through mine. I actually took that picture maybe an hour after totality. I was going back through before we did get some clouds come in after everybody left. I was getting in here and taking some other shots. Next slide. I think I have a close-up of that sunspot group. So there's the sunspot group that was in the middle of the sun when we were looking. I didn't take any other than my GoPro video, which is on Facebook. You guys can look at that. It's not time-lapsed or anything, so it's like 5 minutes long. You don't need to see that, but you can look at it on Facebook. Besides the GoPro, my camera stuff didn't work out. I didn't really try too hard. I kind of wish I had a handheld camera. I took a couple of shots after I saw all the great results you guys all took. But I was totally satisfied to follow my own advice from the talks of not taking pictures and just enjoying it with my senses. And then I got to do this and have a ton of people come and see what the sun looks like through a solar telescope. So I think that's it as far as my stuff. Nice.
All right. Did anyone else? Go ahead and keep the lights back on, Dave. I think, Wanda, we've gone through all the thumb drives. Does anyone else have any photos?
Yeah, I do, but not on a thumb drive, unfortunately. Same here.
What's it on?
Phone, I can show you.
A phone. Okay. Yeah. All right. Okay. Oh, I know. Yes. Oh, you got some too.
Yeah, I think there's 5 of them.
Okay. I should have said going, gone. All right.
I'll just take it.
Dave, lights.
Just shot through a Vixen ED80 SF with a Canon 50D early in the eclipse.
Next.
Yeah, that's fine. Just prior to totality. Just tried to show the prominences on the edge. Yeah, go ahead. And the corona.
Yeah. Next.
Yeah, it's fine. And finally, just prior to the fourth contact.
It's just that little nip right.
Yeah, just a little bitty bite out of the edge there.
Yeah.
That's all.
Okay, cool. Okay, there you go.
All right.
Okay, anyone else? Going? Yes.
I just have 4 photographs is all.
Okay. Because, you know, the limit's 5. It's just,
And I went to Arthur, Nebraska, which is about 40 miles north of Lake McConaughey.
Point.
Which one here? Oh, just the arrows to. And I have the telescope is a Lunt 60 millimeter solar scope. And about a week and a half before the eclipse, I bought a Malincam Skyraider camera. So it was still, I was still experimenting. And we set up at the high school in Arthur. And Arthur has a population of 200 people. Well, he invited 3 or 4 schools in the neighboring area to come. And we had 300 kids on the football field. So I spent most of my time showing groups of kids a little at a time. And I had my laptop set up so they could all view that. So I was having kids just constantly during the whole process. So here's the first one that I took. And you can see the sunspots on this one. And here's number 2. And I had the mount was drifting, and I had to keep centering it, so that's why they're kind of jumping around. Third one, and didn't know how to adjust the camera when totality came, so I was playing around, missed totality on the camera, but it was just such a great experience with all those kids being around. And here was the last one.
Nice.
And this was coming out of totality. And this was a lucky shot because I was playing around with adjustments on the camera, and I'm glad this one came out. So that's it.
Cool.
Thank you, Scott.
You're welcome. There you go.
Okay.
Okay, anybody else? Okay. So let me go back a little. Let me get back to our Google Hangouts and stop the screen share. There we go. Okay. So I guess we dropped 2 viewers. Well, okay. Leaving the business. Jim? Fred? You want to remind people about the
We have a second sheet for the attendance sheet. If you're done with it, please hand it forward. If you haven't filled it out, please do so and then send it forward. Any visitors that did not get a visitor's card, please see me and fill it out before you leave. We'd like to keep in touch with you.
All right, so next month's meeting will be September something. But that'll be the, whatever it is. Thank you. Just go to our website and look up yourself. And important meeting because that will be the officer elections. So that basically concludes tonight's meeting. Thank you. 26th September, somebody would know. Thank you, all of our visitors and guests, for coming. Hope you had a good time. Got quite the turnout. Hope you enjoyed all the eclipse pictures. Would also like to thank our Space Foundation hosts for graciously providing this meeting room for us. So Space Foundation, thank you very much. And
Brian's gathering next Tuesday.
No, yeah.
Oh, yes, yeah, we'll have an astronomy. Yeah, next Tuesday, and I'm going to host the astrophotography subgroup. For those that are interested, if you haven't given me your email, email me at Colorado Light, LIGHT, ColoradoLight@gmail.com. I'll put you on the list and I'll give you the information. Next week, essentially, we're going to go more detail into the solar eclipse photos that get taken, what worked and what didn't work, and what can apply to other situations as well. So that's next Tuesday. And we were supposed to have my open house. Those of you who have been waiting for that, there's so much has been going on. I haven't been able to complete everything in a timely manner. Like I've just been busy, so I postponed it till October 10th. And all of you or any of you are welcome to come. If you email me or I look on the calendar, they'll probably have my address there as well. Thank you.
Okay, so where's my gavel?
Make it official.
All right. Only a few more months till I get to do this. Meeting adjourned. Yes. Is Tom still here? Say again? Tom's still here? Yeah.
Everybody wants to see the kids laundry.
I would have showed you that.
I have never seen
All right, say good night, everybody. Good night.